please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
There's so many things wrong with this picture. Why am I in town? Why is it so cold? Why is it so grey? But what's right with this picture is I have exactly the right Ferrari for the occasion. In a way, the most un-Ferrari of Ferraris, in a way, essentially a Ferrari, the new Portofino. Now we know that this car was meant to replace the California T, which is one of the most popular Ferraris, and Ferrari is very happy with what the California did for the brand, and that was to bring a whole bunch of new customers who would ordinarily not buy Ferraris into their fold. This car takes the game one step forward, and in a sense what they've done is they've kept the exterior dimensions of that car about the same because it's a good urban practical Ferrari. This is still a +2, but they've given it a little bit more power, they've increased the space inside, and they've created a package that is even more persuasive than that car, and this time they've given it an Italian name. This is the Portofino, named after the famous Italian village. Let's talk about this car. First things first, the engine continues the same line, although it's a significantly updated engine. There's new pistons, new con rods, and it makes 40 PS more. But the story of this engine is that the twin turbo is designed not to let you feel any turbo lag. And honestly, we drove the car through trying conditions today because of low speed limits, there's been traffic, there's rain, there are wet roads, and there are really bumpy roads. And I'll tell you why we are on bumpy roads in a moment. But despite all of these conditions, this car has held its own, and at no point did I feel like I put my foot on the gas and the car didn't respond immediately. Obviously, in comfort mode, the response is a little bit slower than in sport mode, but basically, you're not found wanting, and I think they've nailed that part of the game. And of course, it does sound totally like a Ferrari. When you get on the gas a little bit, the increase in the audio volume, when you're going around a corner fast, that noise, very, very Ferrari noises. I really, really enjoy driving it. What they've also done is they've updated the suspension. So now you've got slightly stiffer springs front and rear. The weight distribution is rear biased. And what it does for this car is give it a set of stiffness that I thought would be a problem. But we've been driving really bumpy roads today. And I have to say, again, the car has held its own because it's surprisingly comfortable for a Ferrari. I'm not going to say that it's your average family hatchback or anything, but for a Ferrari, it holds its own. The difference between sport mode and comfort mode, you can feel it, and it makes the car really easy to drive. And if you look at it from Ferrari's perspective, which is the idea that this is the car that you'd buy as a practical Ferrari that you might actually use, you take your kids, you'd go for a vacation drive and that kind of thing, this would actually work. And in all of those areas, this car is actually quite good because the boot space is bigger, despite the retractable metal hardtop, and it's got a little more space inside. So this is the cabin of the Portofino. A lot of things to talk about here. Obviously, it's a Ferrari, so you begin at the steering wheel, and this has the carbon fiber wheel with the shift lights on top, and I think that's an optional feature. But there's two things that you want to note about here. One is, of course, the Magnesium, which controls a whole bunch of settings about how the car feels. So it's in comfort mode, currently selected. The dampers are relatively soft. And they absorb a lot, and of course you can go to sport mode where it backs off traction control a little bit, stiffens up the dampers, steering response seems to be a little bit sharper, but you also get a button here, and what that does is when you press it temporarily, it goes back into comfort mode so you can handle a bumpy road, and that's what is called the bumpy road button. And of course you press it again and it goes right back into sport mode. The first thing that you notice about this car is that they've got this whole dash in a fully horizontal kind of format. This particular car is trimmed in carbon fiber. The press shots and everything are cars that have silver trim instead. There's a big 10-inch touchscreen here, and the touchscreen has been slightly reorganized to make it a little bit easier to use, but honestly I've seen higher resolution screens than this. They do have a JBL professional music system, which is the optional higher music system in this particular car. Again, I haven't heard anything outside of navigation prompts for it because as far as I can tell, sports guys will tell you that Ferraris have music systems there, and therefore this one isn't really relevant. They've reorganized the cabin a little bit, although the exterior dimension remains the same, and it gives this cabin a little bit more space. But more importantly, these seats that I'm sitting on are now very, very thin frames, magnesium for lightness, and that allows them to really squish the seat back. And when they squish the seat back, what you get is a little bit more space at the back. This is a Ferrari with a retractable hardtop roof. So let's go ahead and show you what that roof looks like. That's what it sounds like inside the cabin. You can hear the ambient, and here we go with the roof. It takes 14 seconds. It's a lighter roof than before. It's completely redesigned, and Ferrari says this time it deploys up to 40 kilometers an hour, and it takes only 14 seconds to deploy the roof fully. All I have to do is sit and hold the button, and there's a little indication there that says the roof is opening, and when it's done, it will beep and say the roof is now open. The overall idea of this car is that here's a Ferrari that Ferrari thinks you would drive every day. Would you do this in India? I would say no, you wouldn't. India is still too difficult a car, but in a place like this in Europe, this is something that you would drive every day. What we know about this is it replaces the California. It will come to India roughly around July this year. Starting prices will be over 3.5 crores. That's where the California T exited. I think this will be a more expensive car. I'm going to say 3.8 to 4 crores is where this car is going to come and sit. And if you were to buy this car, what you would discover is that you wouldn't use it every day, but you'd be more willing to use it on a regular basis than any other Ferrari that I can think of. And that's what the game is about. Overall, the Portofino, it looks brilliant, and that's the one thing that I was saving for last, because just look at it. It doesn't look like a super aggressive or a very, very aerodynamic Ferrari. The elegance and curve of line has returned to this shape. The L-shaped headlamps are a very, very signature feature, and just look at the number of vents and scoops and stuff that they've done for the aerodynamics. Honestly, it's not all good news on that front, because if you look at some of the dust on the side of the headlight, that's the vents working, and when the tire rotates, it throws some of the muck out through the headlamp. And it makes your car look a little bit dirtier, but it does have aerodynamic benefits. It does create less drag in the wheel well, and that has it makes the car more efficient. They've done underbody work where some of the cladding is now not only shaped, it's part of the rigidity structure of this car. And in all of those areas, it's a more advanced car than before, which you will get for not a lot more money than the California T. And that's the whole story of the Portofino. We're driving it in Italy today, but by June, July, this car will be in India. Expect a story from that on Overdrive. We are, of course, ODMag on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Stay tuned and watch out for more stories on the Portofino on our website at overdrive.in.